right, so what are we going to call this? We're going to call this Conversations About Comics and Cars.
With coffee?
We should get some coffee.
No coffee.
So.
Timmy is very
Sam's
happy.
excited.
He's very happy.
So has he been reading that series?
Yes, it's one series he's wanted to follow.
Which issue is this? This first
This is
one,
two.
second one, second one?
It's bi-monthly, so it's going to be a year long. He's not happy about that since
That it's going to take a year?
every other month, yeah. 6 issues. He doesn't like that.
He doesn't. I could have gone the other way, I suppose.
You could.
I didn't.
You did not.
So what comic books did you get?
Detective Comics 1063, I think.
What's that?
It's just the main Detective Comics line that they're doing.
Or is it part of a storyline that's ongoing right now, or is it just one-offs?
Not particularly. I mean, I think it's just the beginning of a new arc, but I've been following the new series they do. Basically, the series are when they introduce new creative teams in it, and I've been following it since this creative team started it about 7 months ago.
What's the creative team?
I don't remember the names. It's a strange name, but just the idea. He makes it more of he calls it the Gotham Nocturne, so it's more of a dark gothic opera is what he tried to do with it, and it's interesting. It's a different concept than usual, so it always makes it more fun. I got that.
That's kind of cool.
I got Batman issue 131, which is the start of the new arc.
Is that part of like after the crisis, or is this completely separate?
This is just before the crisis happened.
Oh, okay.
This series right now, at least from what I know, it's a new arc though, so it might be after. Got that. Got Batman Beyond the White Knight issue 7. So that's the penultimate issue of that series.
Beyond the White Knight.
Mm-hmm.
What's that been? So it's like the final episode, the final issue, or
no, it's the issue before the last one. That's been a universe for 7 years now. That timeline.
Wow.
They had White Knight, then Curse with the White Knight, and then now Beyond the White Knight, which is said that Batman
Are they
Beyond.
closing it off? Or?
This feels like it's going to be the end, probably.
Like the end of the entire series, or just this?
Yeah,
arc?
the end of the entire franchise, this universe. But the fun thing about it is it takes gadgets and Batmobiles and everything from all of the universes. So the Batman's Batmobile was in it, and the Justice League ones, the Snyder Cut's Batmobile was in it.
Well, that's cool.
The Tumbler and some of the gadgets he used from Batman the Animated
So
Series.
are they just act like it's part of his universe? Or?
Kind of, but it's just like all of them meshed together, and it's a different storyline.
Yeah.
It's an interesting. The concept started from Batman White Knight, where Joker went sane, basically, and ran for mayor, and eventually he started framing Batman. And
So it sounds like Lex Luthor.
Yeah, a lot like that, but it was strange. Joker actually suppressed himself in the Jack Napier's mind to come out when he actually rose to power. So Joker was kind of always there. He has two personalities.
So it was like Jack Napier
that
was running for mayor and all that?
And so there's two personalities there. And then Curse of the White Knight, Joker died. And then in this one, Jack Napier had a chip implanted in Bruce Wayne's mind, we find out, from the first series. So even after he died, he would have kind of like an AI system. You remember Halo? And that whole system, it's like that. About Jack Napier. So of course, living with Joker 24/7 for Bruce Wayne is not the most fun, but they're working through it. It's interesting. It's a good one. It's a good series. I'm trying to think of. Yeah, and then I got Riddler.
That's Riddler year 1, right? That's the stuff that happened
before
the Batman.
Mm-hmm. It's the Riddler's
and
origin
it was written by Paul
Dano. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So did Sam like the first episode? Or
he did. He thought it was good. It was good.
That's cool. So what's the what's the backstory on that one? The writing of it.
Paul Dano kind of came to Matt Reeves and came up with the background of Riddler and what he wanted the character to be. Matt Reeves really liked it, so he went to the creative teams at DC Comics and was like, "You guys need to get working on this and get in the comic series." And so they did. They and they're like, all right, you can write the comic series based on your character.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's good. I mean, he was an accountant, and
well, yeah, because we knew that
he was
that book that came out.
He was an underappreciated accountant, basically. And his boss was a jerk and all that stuff. And I'm sure there's more.
Well, and he was also an orphan before that, and all the stuff that we know from the movie. So.
And then he was saved by Batman in the last issue, and so he's obsessed with it now.
What do you mean, like saved by Batman?
There was a mugging going on, and he was a part of it.
Oh, okay. So like
Batman came down. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so he thinks that Batman's a great symbol of
like
Gotham.
Spider-Man and Elektra.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Amazing
a little bit.
The second one, right?
Yes, that's Amazing Spider-Man 2.
That's funny. What are some of the other story? Like, are there other series that you're reading right now, or is that pretty much everything that you're reading?
No, there are other series that I'm reading, just none that have come out recently. I'm waiting for them to start releasing them. They're taking a break this month from the Massive Verse, which is the new superhero universe for Image Comics. They're just trying like Radiant Black and Rogue Sun. Those are the two I read. I think they're having one issue, but I don't read that series. I'm not interested in it, so I'm not interested in that character. But it's coming out the first of that month. They are having that Invincible issue coming out 2 weeks, I think, from now.
So the Invincible issue that's coming out, is it like a separate new story?
No, it's a reprinting of the first issue that they did.
Okay.
But in black and white,
with
some behind the scenes stuff. I don't know if they're going to keep like doing a full release of the entire series monthly, or if they're just going to be doing the one thing. I think they might just be doing it one off and seeing how it goes.
What if they did? Would you like want to
collect the entire series? Want to follow it.
Really?
Might as well. I mean, it would be fun to follow it.
So did you read the Invincible comics before you watched the show, or did you watch the show?
No, I watched. I think I read the first 2 small volumes of Invincible before we watched the show, because I thought, I don't know if I want to try to get into the show, and so I'm like, might as well read the comics. And I read the comics, and I told Sammy that they were fantastic, and then we started talking about it with you, and we're like, might as well just watch the show.
Did we watch the show all together?
We all did.
Mm-hmm. I thought you guys had watched the show.
No. We all watched it together for the first time.
I thought you guys had watched it.
No.
I guess you knew the comics.
We knew, we knew the comics because I was reading it. I was going through the first compendium.
And you've read all 3 compendiums?
All 3 compendiums twice now. So.
Twice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
And Sam is halfway through the second one the first time.
Mm-hmm. I keep telling him he needs to finish it because
there's some of the best stuff coming.
Yeah, really. I mean, it gets a little slow at like the beginning of the 3rd compendium, but other than that, it's they just have to figure out where they're going to be going. But they did a great job with it. It's a lot of fun.
That's cool. Which is better, the series or the comics?
Oh, I'd have to say the comics now. Mm-hmm.
Was there like a lot of big differences?
No, just more shortened.
Well, yeah,
they took plot lines from later in the comic series and introduced them earlier, and then even moved some from earlier on to what I'm assuming is going to be later. Because I mean they're too important to leave out, so they just had to, I guess, move stuff around because I think they're planning on this being a 7-season show right now.
Really?
Or at least hoping it is going to be.
That's cool. Ooh, I was a wreck up there.
Almost. He wasn't letting them in though. So.
This guy's coming over too.
But yeah, they're planning on it being 7 seasons if they can get the funding and make sure it's all right. But I don't think Amazon's going to have a problem.
It's taken them forever to get the 2nd season out though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the deal is, but it's not like Robert Kirkman has much going on.
We're supposed to get an announcement this month, are we?
We are. They said that they're going to be giving us an announcement this month. They said last month that it was going to be the last month that we won't be getting news about it. So
the news will be
this month.
But what will the news be? You think it'll be a release date?
I think it'll be a release date, maybe a trailer and poster reveal. That wouldn't surprise me because it's going to be this year. Probably later this year.
That they actually release it.
That they actually release it, but
That's cool. What is the other stuff that Robert Kirkman has done? Do you know?
The Walking Dead.
Really?
He did the original comic series.
Like the comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So was he behind the actual series on that one too?
He was a little bit. He helped work on that too.
But he's really involved with Invincible, right?
He very much is. He's helping write it and helping plan out the show and how they're working out with the plot lines and how they're going to fit it all together. And so we'll see how that goes. I mean, they really hit a home run with the first season, and it blew up. And I don't know if that would be able to happen a second time. Because the plot lines they have to introduce in the second season are difficult to deal with. And
on like a superhero level or on a personal level? Because that's one of the things about Invincible that was so, I thought, intriguing, was there was like all this like family and personal issues.
Yeah, it's the personal stuff that really is difficult to kind of navigate, and they can either send it and just go down that path, they can tiptoe around it, which I don't want them to tiptoe around.
Is it like I mean, would it be like way too much of a spoiler to try to tell me?
Not particularly a spoiler, but the mom, right, after Omni-Man leaves, she goes into an alcoholic depression and starts pushing Mark away and all this stuff. It just goes into a complete dark spot, and that really is a big part of what Mark's having to do and having to navigate now, being a superhero and having to go to school and dealing with that. Then there's some stuff there's some really big spoilers that are happen later on that they're either going to have to introduce at the end of this season or beginning of next, because it needs to happen quick, because if they don't, then they're going to be just dragging it out. It won't work in time for them to finish up the series. Because, I mean, this comic series ran for, I think, 17, 18 years.
Jeez.
So
that's a lot of content.
It is. And so trying to fit that all into 7 seasons of a show, while it sounds like a lot of seasons, I mean, there's only 9 episodes, I think. Yeah. In the first season, I think they're only planning on that. So,
I mean, and how often was it released? Like every month or something?
No, I think it was once a week. I don't know. We didn't follow it.
No. I'm talking about
the comic series. Yeah, I think it was monthly. So
that's 12 times 17. That's 120. 784. That's like 204 issues.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, there was a lot.
Wow.
And they had crossovers with other superheroes. And
that's got to be Image's most successful series of all time.
No.
Really?
That's Spawn.
Oh, I didn't know. I'd forgotten about that.
Spawn was their first one, and it's still running to this day.
I knew that. I remember when Spawn released the first issues.
Really? Yeah,
it was right around the time of the Death of Superman issue.
Really? Yeah, that was kind of the era where comics were like, we can go a little bit darker with our storytelling and don't have to be campy anymore. And it worked out. I've never read a Spawn comic.
Really?
So, no.
Have you watched any of the movies?
No, I haven't
either. 2 movies, right?
I haven't, no.
There was a movie that came out like in the early 2000s, I think.
But I know that Todd McFarlane, the creator of Spawn and writer and everything, made an animated show on HBO of Spawn. And, it was violent and dark and everything, so I just haven't watched it. But if that's where I was going to get into it, that's probably would be the best spot. But
it's interesting.
I mean,
Spawn's a fascinating character.
He is fascinating, and I mean, I read the Spawn Batman issue they had a couple months ago, and it was.
I saw that the poster.
It was mediocre.
Comic books.
It just felt too rushed. They tried to put it into 1 issue when it felt like it would have been better as 3
issues,
a miniseries, but it was still fun. I mean, the Corvallis being the bad guys was fun enough. That was cool, and I mean, as somebody who knows a ton about Batman but knows nothing about Spawn, I was at a disadvantage because they already assumed that you're going into it with knowledge about Spawn. So I was lost as to, like, there was characters being introduced and his origin, which I don't even know his origin, was the main drive for the entire issue, and I was just a little confused by that. But
So how frustrating is it for you to have to drive an hour to get a comic book?
it is frustrating. Because like you miss issues like Daredevil because it sells out and all that stuff.
So what's the process that you can go through to try to get that? You have to do it digitally or something?
I'd either have to do it digitally or get it shipped from a company that just sells single issues. I mean, I've researched them and everything, and they sell single issues, but then you got to pay for shipping and then the comic itself, which neither are super expensive, but you still got to deal with it. So, but they didn't even have issue 7, so I could just order 6 and 7 from them.
Do it all in one.
Mm-hmm. And I get to pick any variant cover without having.
So that was the only comic you weren't able to get was 7. Or?
Yeah, 6 and 7.
You knew that you weren't going to get that today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wasn't super worried about it though because I haven't read 6.
Right.
But it's the big war issue I think against Punisher and Hand. So, which that was an interesting comic. The Daredevil Punisher crossover one they had a little bit ago, which is the only issue of Punisher I've ever read. It was cool to see Daredevil try to perform an exorcism on Punisher.
So Daredevil's like, what, does he become a priest or something?
No.
How do you perform an exorcism?
I don't know. I mean, he had a cross and he put it on his forehead and started performing an exorcism.
Speaking in Latin prayers and stuff?
No, he was just praying. It was weird. I mean, out of the blue too, but it almost works. Didn't fully work though because he didn't have a demon in it apparently, and it was confusing jumping into issue 7 of Punisher without knowing what happened before that. But I was only reading it for the context of Daredevil and how that was going to work out.
So I know you've sent me some messages in our group thing about some of the new stuff that Matt Reeves has been saying about the Batman.
Yeah,
I'm just going to be honest, I haven't read any of it. I mean, I've seen like images and stuff. So what's going on?
I don't know. He's just talking a lot about it recently. I guess he's just getting ready for it. He's deep into the script right now, writing that with Mattson Tomlin, who was going to help with the first movie, co-writing, and did some, but not most of it because he was busy. But eventually, that Mattson Tomlin wrote a comic series based on his ideas of the Batman. It's called Batman the Imposter, a great comic series, and
you read it?
I have. I own it. He's gonna do great with helping out. So they're deep in the process of that. Matt Reeves said he really wants the focus of the entire Batman universe, which is now officially titled by him, the Batverse.
That's cool.
Which is nice to see.
I'm sure he's not saying all these things without having already had conversations with Gunn and
James Gunn, yeah. He was talking that. He's had meetings with James Gunn and how he said, we're going to make sure that, he's like, I'm having meetings and everything with James Gunn to make sure that our universes don't collide with each other so that they can stay separate but still run and be smooth. And
because the Batverse is kind of set in its own. It's not like a superhero driven.
It's not really superhero. No, it's not. It's more of a comic booky type.
Detective
universe.
Comics type stuff, right?
It is.
Now, is the Detective Comics line, does it like cross over into superhero stuff a lot?
Oh,
because it's like the main line.
Sometimes it is the main line, and it does cross over sometimes into superhero stuff, but more often than not, it'll stay pretty much detective, especially in the new creative team. They've really kept it staying true to just detective work and all of that, which is nice to see. But Matt Reeves is still working hard on that. Is making sure that Bruce Wayne stays a focus and it's about Bruce Wayne. And he's like, because when you get into these superhero movies and you start making sequels, it starts to become more about their rogues gallery and the focus is taken off of Bruce Wayne and he just becomes a superhero. And he's like, I don't want that for my version. I don't want that for this character. I want it to still focus on Bruce Wayne and his struggle with Batman and becoming and being the Batman. So that's encouraging to see that it's not just going to become another MCU style series.
That's cool.
Which the MCU works well with what it's doing. It was interesting to see though. I was trying to follow like the view count of the new Ant-Man trailer as it was going, and comparing it to Oppenheimer and seeing how that.
Yeah.
And at 11 hours, Oppenheimer was at 17 million views. At 11 hours for Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania, it was at 7.6.
Wow.
So I don't know if it's just because Christopher Nolan's a big draw for movies, or somehow Oppenheimer just got.
Well, I think that there was a lot of buzz about the practical effects for the nuclear explosion. Did they show that in the trailers?
The nuclear explosion itself? No.
They didn't. Did they?
He's going to save that for the movie.
Yeah.
What would you say your most anticipated movie for 2023 is?
Movie?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first thing that popped into my head was Shazam, but that's probably because that's the first thing I'm thinking of is like the timeline.
Right.
That comes out in March, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I never get like super hyped about the Ant-Man movies.
Yeah,
I like the Ant-Man
Me
movies.
too. I really do like them, but
I don't get hyped about them in advance. The trailer looked great.
it did.
The Flash has got me really intrigued.
Yeah, it does. It was.
You hear about
He pled guilty.
Ezra Miller?
Yeah.
He's got a year probation.
I think that's because Warner Brothers wants to keep it.
Warner Brothers influence came into that.
I really do feel like though, it's going to be so they released the box set for the comics that inspired the Flash movie.
Oh wow!
Which they did for the Batman and everything.
I know, but did you read all the ones that inspired the Batman movie?
I've yet to read one of them. Batman Ego. This is difficult to find. I'll read it once they get a reprint of the trade paperback. But the ones that are in the box set for the Flash is the Batman '89 movie adaptation comic.
Okay.
Which
makes sense because you got Michael Keaton.
Exactly. The Flash Fastest Man Alive miniseries that they did. That's the official movie tie-in.
Okay.
Which again
you read that?
Makes sense. I did. It was good. I mean, it was more of just.
Does it tie into the Snyderverse really strongly?
It had mentions to it, like the Snyder Cut and all that stuff, but other than that, it wasn't much to it. But it was more of just setting him up, getting him into, CSI, and giving him that job, and him talking with his dad, and working through that, and figuring out how to become the Flash more, and learning some powers. It just felt like the Flash, though, but in comic form. And
the Flash, I'm trying to remember.
The Flash show.
Oh.
Yes. But they had that in there, and then they also had the Flashpoint.
But not
comic.
cheesy?
No, it wasn't. I mean, it had its campy moments, but it wasn't super cheesy. But then Flashpoint was another one of the box fed. So, and in the official description, it said that the Flash movie is based off of Flashpoint. So, it's gonna be interesting to see.
They made an animated version.
They did, mm-hmm.
And that's the one that started the new series.
Yeah.
And we know that there's at least 2 versions of Ezra Miller's Flash.
There is. And one of them wears an old suit of Michael Keaton's Batman, but turned into the Flash suit.
Wow.
So
he's got to come from the same universe as the Batman.
He must.
Not that Batman, because I don't want to.
No. But
as Michael Keaton.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then, so you could have that Flash and that Batman, and then we having Ben Affleck in it?
Most likely. That's that we've seen him on set, and I'm pretty sure they revealed it at some point. But he's the mentor of the Flash in the Flash comics that they had. So,
okay. So that version of Batman,
yes,
in
is
the comics
the mentor.
You're saying. Okay.
Like he made the suit that he wears in this movie, and is giving him pointers and all this stuff throughout the comics.
Because he was sort of that in the Snyder Cut.
He was. I know that James Gunn is like writing new shows and concepts of shows right now for DC. And
Do you think he directs the Superman movie you talked about? I can't imagine him writing that Superman movie and not directing.
I don't think he directs it.
I don't see how he does it.
He's writing it, but he says he's looking for other directors.
Really?
Like he was asked about it, and like, is Ben Affleck going to direct? And he's like, we love Ben Affleck to direct it and want him to be involved in this universe, but Superman doesn't seem to be the right fit for him,
right?
Because that's just not his style. But they said we're still working strong on revealing, finding the right director. I would love
your dream.
Steven Spielberg directing would be so amazing. A Spielberg Superman movie.
That would be a shot across the bow of the MCU if Steven Spielberg comes over, directs the first film in the new the
first Superman film. Yeah, the first Superman film for DC.
The new DC.
And then if you get Christopher Nolan to direct the next Batman movie, even,
I don't know if he's going to come back to Batman.
I feel like he would if he can make it who he wants it to be. I mean, Warner Bros. Was really hoping to have him start out a franchise, and he was wanting to, but after that, he was gonna write and direct Batman v Superman, but then it was canceled, and then it was given to Zack Snyder, and he wrote it. So, heck, he could even write Steven Spielberg's Superman movie since he wrote Man of Steel, and that duo on a Superman movie would be a big nail in the coffin for MCU if they.
I don't know about nail in the coffin.
It would be a shock to them, that's for sure, to have them do it.
So how many years? Let's hypothesize. That's a word, right?
Yeah.
Let's hypothesize. Let's say that Gunn and Safran's DCU. It works. It doesn't have to be the meteoric rise like the MCU, but it works, right? It's light years better than all the silliness that's happened with DC movies over the last 20 years, right?
Okay.
It works. Established universe, established characters, established storylines, other things, spin-offs, all that kind of stuff. How many years into that do they have to go before that universe would accept a Zack Snyder directed written film into it? Not a continuation of the Snyderverse, but Snyder returning
to direct a movie. You let Zack Snyder decide that. At this point, you let him direct his Rebel Moon stuff, finish out those movies, let him do what he wants to do. If he wants to do more Army of the Dead stuff, or wants to start out with a new IP, or does Rebel Moon shows on Netflix, you can let him decide that. And I don't know if he would ever return to DC, just because that it would be big and it would work, but I don't know if his vision of the characters could fit into DCU, or if he would like being put into that box of what they have in mind, because it's just, he has a different taste than what they would want probably. But I mean, we know we have 10 years of DCU to expect right now. They've confirmed that, so
unless it flops, and then they'll just cancel it like they've done everything else.
And I mean, James Gunn said today, even, he's like, we're working hard to finding out who we're wanting to play Superman, but we're not close, and we're taking our time with it, and we will have announcements.
We're going to bring Tyler Hoechlin over. It's going to be a crossover into that. The Arrowverse is going to crossover into the DC.
Totally. But he's like, we're going to have announcements for you on a lot of things pretty soon here, but the casting of Superman won't be one of them.
It will not.
It won't be one of them. So that's good to hear. I just want I want a roadmap of what they're thinking, at least for the next 2 or 3 years.
Kevin Feige moment where he's
exactly
with the screen and all the stuff, the timeline behind him and all that.
That would be great. But he's talking to me. He's like, I'm doing so many meetings right now of just figuring out stuff, directors and creative teams, and how we're wanting to work this out, which is great. He's working hard on it, so. And he's also working hard on finishing up Guardians 3.
That comes out in the summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it May? No. What comes out in May? That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I
it's
think
it's the May the 4th
Yeah.
release, the first weekend in May release. So what's coming out? You've got in the MCU, you've got Ant-Man Quantumania,
Yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
What else is this year?
I'm not sure. I think Secret Invasion is this year.
Well, that's a series, though.
Yeah.
Loki 2 is a series that's supposed to come out this year, too.
The Marvels.
The Marvels is a movie that comes out this year, you're right.
Across the Spider-Verse, if you consider that MCU, if they decide to bring it in.
The Sonyverse, the Spider-Verse.
And then the Craven movie from Sony that might be coming out this year, but that's it. There's only 3 MCU movies this year. And the Marvels is going to be a gamble because those characters haven't been received fantastically.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean,
Captain Marvel's fine. Miss Marvel's fun. We haven't gotten enough of Photon to know.
I didn't like her as Photon. I mean, that happened at the very end.
Right.
I didn't have a chance to even decide whether or not I liked her as Photon. But I thought she was good as Monica Rambeau.
Yeah,
I enjoyed her character.
Definitely.
I struggle between some of those early series, the early MCU Disney Plus series, as to which ones are my favorite.
Yeah.
Which one is my favorite? I mean, I really liked WandaVision.
It was pretty good.
It was so trippy.
It felt a little weird in the last episode or last 2 episodes, and just like felt like they had to have normal superhero put into it, like a giant CGI battle.
A Marvel battle.
Yeah, which makes sense. It's the first series. You kind of have to make sure you stick to their formula. But then you have Loki, and they didn't.
I love that one too.
Loki is great.
And I love I love Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
That one was
I loved it for a very different reason, though, because it dealt with such really heavy social issues. But I loved the way that they addressed, nationalism and systemic racism within politics and our government and things. I thought it was really well done.
Really good. You did hear that I think it was Ken Feige or the director of Ant-Man and Wasp or something. I don't remember. Somebody said something about Ant-Man 3, but they said that this is going to have the same ramifications for the MCU as Winter Soldier and Civil War did. So
that was huge from a revealing that Hydra was basically behind.
And then Civil War was big due to the Avengers splitting up and bringing in those characters and Spider-Man and.
So we're assuming that Scott Lang's not going to make it out of this movie after that.
Either Scott Lang dies or King dies, and we know King doesn't die. So it has to be Scott.
So is Cassie? In the comics, does Cassie take up his mantle?
I don't know. I don't know enough about Ant-Man
because it feels like a redemption story for her. You see her coming out in that trailer. You see her coming out of like a prison cell or some jail cell. So I could see them even if it's not in the comics, I could see him doing this. Having her take up the mantle of the Ant-Man or Wasp or one of those, right? And then making her part of the Young Avengers, because the Young Avengers is without a doubt happening.
100% happening. But the thing that worries me about the MCU and what's coming up is Scott Lang is probably going to die. Most of the Guardians are probably going to die.
Yeah.
So why are all the original characters that we've come to love probably going to die, other than Doctor Strange?
I mean, just to be honest, it's because they're tired of playing the characters. I mean, Chris Hemsworth made it pretty clear. I'm kind of done with playing Thor.
Which makes sense. I mean, Thor: Love and Thunder was mediocre at best. But
it could have been so good.
I love
the
Ragnarok is great.
The God Butcher.
Gore the God Butcher is awesome.
I love that character.
He's a lot darker in the comics,
Yeah.
and Christian Bale really saved that movie from being boring. But it was a miss, and I never thought I'd say that about the
only
MCU.
one that and Eternals are the only two MCU movies that I haven't seen more than once.
Yeah, we saw Black Widow more than once.
We saw Black Widow like 3 or 4 times.
I think we saw it 3. We saw Shang-Chi.
But I'm talking about like not even. I haven't watched it on streaming.
Right. No, I know that. Yeah, I can't think of any others. And I never thought I'd be like, oh, the MCU had a miss, but nowadays it's more and more common.
Was a miss.
I mean, Eternals was a miss. She-Hulk was a miss.
She-Hulk has its people that absolutely love it.
They're the same as Eternals.
Yeah, I guess you're right. When we didn't even finish She-Hulk, it just didn't. It just stopped interesting me.
Yeah.
I'll read the cliff notes if I need to for Daredevil or whatever.
Echo. We gotta get some news about Echo. I think that comes out this year.
It's just gonna have to show.
We gotta get a trailer, or release date, or a promo image, or something. And while, it's fun that Daredevil was in She-Hulk and all that, I'm wanting Daredevil to get back to the character we know from the Netflix show.
I know.
It was fine,
but I'm just not confident we're going to see that version.
I think we will see a closer version of it than what we got in She-Hulk, because we'll have different writers. But, I don't know. Like, we won't be getting the same dark tone ever again, I don't think. Not to that extent, unless they make...
Not the brutal, violent tone.
No. Definitely not. I mean, with Marvel Zombies being MA, we might be getting an MA Born Again, but I don't think it'll ever go that violent again. When is this first Marvel TV show come out this year?
I think it is Echo, honestly. I think they're
What If Season 2's slated for early 2023? We haven't gotten anything for that. Secret Invasion, spring. Echo's summer.
Okay, you said Secret Invasion and what?
Is in spring, and then Echo is in summer. Loki Season 2 is also summer. Ironheart's also in the summer. X-Men 97 is fall.
I don't think
Agatha
you see X-Men 97 impacting MCU canon, and I don't think that you see What If impacting MCU.
I don't think you'll see What If, Marvel Zombies, X-Men, or that Spider-Man freshman year impacting the MCU.
No, they've already said that.
I think you will see that at least X-Men and Spider-Man freshman year somehow impacting the Sony Spider-Verse.
Oh, it might. Yeah, that's true.
And then they might be able to bring those characters into the MCU from that. Across the Spider-Verse looks really good.
Yeah.
I think that sucks about it. It's a part 1.
Have they talked about when part 2 is releasing yet?
No, I think it's
like a year later or something.
Probably. I think it's Spider-Man.
Do you think that they had intentionally, like they originally were going to make that one movie, and then they just realized
they had
way too much story?
Yeah, they have a release date for the next Spider-Verse one. It's March 29th, 2024.
So a year later.
It's going to be called...
When is it? Is that in March?
No,
it's later in the year.
No, but the third one's going to be called Beyond the Spider-Verse. But let me see. It's June 2nd.
I feel like Disney has decided to make the first part of this year
Star Wars
driven.
Yeah, definitely, because Mandalorian's going to be going on, and it will be running, or at least finishing, right before Celebration, right?
Celebration's Easter weekend, so it's like the second or third weekend in April.
So yeah, it'll be finishing pretty close to then. And then there's a ton of rumors right now that they're going to announce the film slate at Celebration.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard any of this, so I haven't been able to kind of keep my
I saw a couple people talk about it. I think Star Wars Underworld talked about it.
Oh, that's cool.
So it makes sense. They have to. And so they're going to have that, and that'd be the big deal. And then they're going
they have to. Yeah, they absolutely have to start announcing some films.
They do. And then you have Jedi Survivor coming out.
That's in March too.
Mm-hmm. We do have to watch the Creed movie sometime soon, especially with Sammy starting up his college and all that.
That's kind of the best part about forcing yourself to take a Sabbath.
Right.
And you have like
watch the movies you want to.
Friday night and Saturday, you're just not doing any work, you're not doing any school, you're resting.
Those are the kind of days I love.
Enjoying times with their family, you know.
Yeah. I could go whole days just watching a ton of movies.
I know you could.
Sammy, on the other hand.
Yeah, he reaches his limit and then it gets grumpy.
Yeah. But with TV shows, I can reach my limit, but when it comes to movies, because, like, you know, they're long and they take up a lot of time, but you finish up the story, and then you can get on to the next one, or if it's a series, then you can watch more. Or if it's like the Snyder Cut, you can just spend 4 hours watching it.
This is true.
How many times have you seen the Snyder Cut? Once?
I've seen it at least twice.
You have seen it twice, you have.
At least. I think I may have seen it.
You might have. I know I've seen it.
Because they released the black and white version.
Yeah, we watched that.
And I know we watched that one, which was definitely a different experience.
It was different. It was cool, though. It was nice to see it in the way that he watched it for so long. Zack Snyder did.
Why did he watch it in black and white?
Because that's the only copy he had. He made a black and white version just because he wanted to, and that's the only one he was able to save from it.
They're never going to do it now with the changeover and all this stuff, but it would have been cool to see that in the theater.
But he's getting it into the theater.
Well, isn't that the Kevin Smith?
It's the Kevin Smith Q&A thing that these do.
Yeah, but that's like very different than
it is
than like a limited release for a couple of weeks or a weekend or something, like they did with Rogue One. That one before this summer or this winter, fall, whatever. That would be cool.
It would. I think it would make a lot of money too.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like cut in such a way that you could have intermission.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
right after people have a chance, right after 15, 20 minutes.
Right after part 3, you can have an intermission. Because that's the kind of, you know, they're all together and they're waiting, and then part 4 they go to.
Naturally lends itself to that.
It does.
We did it, didn't we? Didn't we stop?
We did have 20, an intermission.
15, 20 minutes?
We wanted to make sure we set everything up, got some more snacks and all that stuff. I will say the Snyder Cut is nice for long drives.
Yeah.
Because it's
like driving home from the comic book store.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of them. I think I've seen it a total of 8 times now.
Really?
Yeah.
Does it hold up?
It always does. I mean, every time you finish watching it, you're just like, dang, that is such a good movie.
That one and the Batman were the 2 movies that I've watched with you where I was genuinely
nervous,
really nervous going into it, that you were going to be way disappointed.
Yeah. And then you came out with surprise from both of them.
You loved both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that final scene with Flash, in the Snyder Cut. It's crazy.
Oh, that's my favorite scene in the whole movie. Which is why I think I'm looking forward to the Flash so much. I really liked that character in the Snyderverse.
Yeah, he was great. A different Barry, but still a good one.
Why do you say that? I mean, he is. I mean, I've got 3 frames of reference. I've got CW Barry and I've got the animated Barrys.
You do.
But why do you say that?
I mean, you don't really ever see him as a kid, really. Like, kind of just wondering if he should go to college. You never see that kind of high schooler or just out of high school version of Barry Allen all that much, but it's a welcome one. I mean,
but that's what you're getting.
It is what you're getting. He's right out of college, I think, and the Flash Fastest Man Alive gets him that CSI job, intern, then he eventually becomes
that's
case
true.
worker.
He had just gotten hired to work at the police department,
and so it kind of picks up right after the ending of the Snyder Cut, where he's talking to his dad about it, and the first issue is him trying to figure out how to get all this time together, being the Flash and finding bad guys and being at the internship and all that, and he figures it out. No. Michael Bay is facing charges in Rome for the alleged death of a pigeon on the set of 6 Underground. Bay denies the claim, saying no animal involved in the production was injured or harmed or any other production I've worked on. A pigeon in Italy. You know?
Oh, jeez.
Gosh, imagine that's how he goes to jail.
He's not going to jail over that.
No,
that's a contradiction on that license plate.
It is. I don't know who they root for. It's weird. Amazon really is starting to show up with their original content. I mean, Rings of Power is a big deal, and I mean, for the people that like it, The Boys is a huge deal right now, even though I think it's disgusting, weird that it's even a show. But I mean, you had the Legend of Vox Machina, which doesn't sound interesting to me either, but it's a huge animated show based on another comic series, I think, and then you have the God of War series that they're doing, and the Invincible, and I mean, I never really looked to Amazon as
a streaming series,
right? Like place I'd go to watch original content. Then HBO is starting to show up with their Last of Us this weekend, which is now being hailed as the new bar for video game adaptations. So it's going to be interesting to see how people react to that.
Have you played that game?
No, I haven't. I mean, I've wanted to. I've looked at it, but it's just pricey. And I mean, I don't have really a story game I'm going through right now, so maybe I will. They just remade it for the PS5 with new gameplay added to it to make it newer, since it came out in 2013 on the PS3.
Wow. So they've updated it?
Mm-hmm. And they remastered it for the PS4, and then they completely remade it for the PS5.
Oh, wow.
And it's a PlayStation exclusive original game, which PlayStation's owned that side of original IPs over Xbox forever. Xbox really only had Halo.
So you can only play Halo on Xbox, or like a
PC or Xbox. But PlayStation has Last of Us, Uncharted, Ghost of Tsushima, Ratchet and Clank.
They're making a series of that. Ghost of Tsushima.
They're making a movie with the director of the John Wick movies. Is directing.
Wow.
And after seeing John Wick 3, he really likes samurai swords, so it kind of makes sense. And he helped work on Bullet Train, so
that's cool. That's on Netflix now, isn't it?
It is. I rewatched it.
Did you?
I did. I think you and Mom were off doing something, and Sammy was at college, and I was sick at home, and I'm like, I'm gonna rewatch Bullet Train, and it was good. It held up the second time. It was fun.
There's a underlying quirkiness and humor to it that makes it fun.
I will say though, I mean, nobody has to be one of my favorite action movies to come out in a long time. Right. I mean, Mission Impossible Fallout's a great action movie and it's a lot of fun, but nobody just has this sense of rewatchability that's just, and it's funny, and the acting is great, and plot's good for...
Yeah, it was definitely surprising when we saw it the first time. We were like, that was a lot better than I thought.
I mean, it just looked kind of interesting from the trailers, and we wanted a reason to get back into the theaters because it was right after COVID.
It was still in the middle of COVID.
It was. And like right in that point when theaters opened up for like a month and then closed back down.
Right.
And we wanted an excuse to go back and didn't think it was going to be anything worth watching really, but came out really surprised. And they're supposedly making a sequel to that right now, but we'll see if it ever goes through.
So there's 2 movies this weekend, right? That we have interest in seeing.
That's Puss in Boots.
Puss in Boots, and then there was a new one that just came out. What is it?
Plane?
Yeah, I think the 3 of us would be interested in seeing it.
Mm-hmm. If it's even
Mom wouldn't want to see that. Although she liked Olympus movies.
I know, but she said she wouldn't like this one. And I mean, that Gerard Butler was in the Olympus movie.
I know, that's why.
The Has Fallen movie. So that's why I thought about it. And I said she would, but it's probably one of those we go see it first, and if it's worth seeing, and she would like it.
I don't think we'll ever talk her into seeing it. It's just, it's not her. I mean, she liked watching them on. That's more of those you're sitting there on a Saturday and you don't have anything going on, and you're trying to figure out something to watch and throw on a Has Fallen movie, and that's how you guys got into those.
Well, no, we accidentally got into them. We thought it was White House Down, and Mom thought she had seen it before, but she hadn't.
What? Wait,
and
I'm
so
confused.
You were on a business trip,
right?
And we just finished watching Sleeping with the Enemy because Mom swore that it was the scariest movie she'd ever seen.
She said that for years. It's not that scary.
It was boring. And Sammy and I both looked at each other. We're like, "Is that really it?" And we were like, they even like stole the Shining music as the main like. They not connect this? And she's like, "It was so unsettling when I was a kid, but it's not that bad anymore." I'm like, "No, it really isn't." But we were sitting there and we just didn't know what to watch, and we were scrolling past Netflix, and Mom saw Olympus Has Fallen. And now she has every right to be confused that between that and White House Down is because they both take place on an attack on White House, and they both came out in the same year. Difference is one is R and one is PG-13. But we saw Olympus Has Fallen, and she's like, "Oh, that was a really good movie." We're like,
"So they're different movies."
They are. And we're like, "We've never seen that." She's like, "I did. I saw it."
It was in White House Down.
Channing Tatum and Morgan Freeman, I think. No. Channing
Tatum. Morgan Freeman is in the Has Fallen movie.
No, I think it's Channing Tatum and somebody else. I know that.
Okay.
He plays the main character. But we were scrolling past it, and she was like, "Yeah, it was a really good movie." And we're like, "Well, you've never seen it." She's like, "Well, you guys should." So we turned it on, and she's like, "I don't remember this movie." And we're like, "Oh, I think you're thinking of White House Down." She's like, "No, I think I'm thinking of this." And we're like, "Okay." And we keep watching. She's like, "Yeah, I really don't remember this movie." And it was super intense, and she didn't like it, like parts of it, but she really enjoyed it. And so we rented the other two, and
Yeah, you guys watched
we
them all.
watched. No, we watched the second one, and then you watched the second one on your way back, so that we could all watch the last one
Because I
together.
had seen the first
Because
one.
you'd seen
That's
the
right.
first one. And we all watched Angels Falling together, which it was a fun series. I mean, nothing revolutionary. It's not one of those
No,
action
you know what you're
series.
getting.
It's not one of those action series I would even like go back to really if I'm in a mood
Like
for it.
rewatchable.
Like I'd rewatch Mission Impossible or Jason Bourne or Oceans or something like that
Right.
for it.
Mission Impossible and Bourne sort of fit in the same world.
They do, and then you
Then go Oceans, and that's very different.
That's just some movies.
That's just a rewatchable movie
every time. I feel like we rewatch that series at least once a year.
Which I'm totally cool with, by the way. Did you guys know? Or did you know that like Ocean's 12 is like almost universally despised?
Really?
Of all three of them,
Wow.
like the one that people are like, "That's terrible. It's a terrible movie." I read this. I saw something on social this week about like one of the stars, maybe Catherine Zeta-Jones or something, like feeling like she constantly has to apologize for that movie.
Well, she wasn't in the third one. I think that she didn't like it, and assumed that everybody else didn't like it because she didn't like it.
It's my favorite.
It's a good one.
Of those three, I mean, I love all of them, but that's my favorite.
I don't know. Ocean's 13 is a lot of fun.
It's fun.
It is the lowest rated out of.
I think I like 12 better because it's it focuses on Rusty.
It does.
And I think Rusty's my favorite character in all of it.
I mean, Brad Pitt's just an amazing actor. Everything he does, every movie I've seen him in, he's always kind of makes it good. Like Fight Club wouldn't have been what it was without Brad Pitt.
Yeah. And Edward Norton, though.
Oh, of course, Edward Norton did a great job, but I mean, Bullet Train wouldn't have been the same without Brad Pitt.
Right. Oh, yeah.
He was great.
All this talking about Brad Pitt's making me hungry.
He does eat in a lot of his scenes.
All right. We did it.
Right.
We got your comic books.
We did.
All right.
Eventually. And I need to go back into.
It'll actually take you less time to read the comic books than it took you to drive
get them. It's a one-way drive.
That's funny.